Hello and welcome. I love these monthly episodes of our Cosmic Chronicles where we're basically looking at, hey, what can we photograph this month? Now, before we get started, I want to tell you about something cool that I'm doing. It is brand new, brand spanking new, never been done before by me. It is a secret. Yes, it is a secret podcast experience. And this is a free experience. It is called From Passion to Profit, and it's by From Passion to Profit Bootcamp. Basically, this is a training that I've put together for photographers. Really, this is for my students in my masterclass who are now people are like, hey, I want to buy your photos, or your photos are so good, you should be selling them. And they should be. So there's lots of questions that come up around that. And I've got a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on it. But the thing that I get really excited about with doing this, so I am going to be launching my Shoot to Sell Society after this, which is a membership which is tailored specifically for fine art photographers, landscape photographers, nature, Milky Way photographers who are looking to monetize. And the thing that gets me super jazzed about doing all of this is not only the transformation that people will get coming into it, but it's also the creation process of doing and putting together the content. I have to tell you, I get just as much from teaching you as you do from being here with me. I have to consolidate all of the thoughts and ideas that rattle around inside my brain on a mostly daily / moment-to-moment basis and put them together in a way that I think is useful. So I'm really excited to do that. I have this training as a secret podcast. One, because it sounds cool. I've always wanted to be part of a secret society. I never have been before, so I figure I may as well make one. And also to make it as accessible as possible, because I know what busy lives that we lead. And I want to get you the transformation in the most accessible way. So if you are interested, if you are the person who loves photography, you love creating images, and it's a dream to monetize that, I wish I could come up with a better word than monetize, but to take what you're doing and be able to do it on a larger scale and be monetarily compensated for that. And there might be a bajillion things that come up when I say that for you, like I'm not there yet, I'm not ready, who's going to buy, my work's not good enough, I need to get better at this, I need to do this. But here's the cold hard truth. And I say cold as if anyone is watching this on the YouTube. You'll see I have a toque on because it's cold here. It's -10 and it's cold in my office. The cold hard truth is that you get better at these things when you do it. You don't magically become ready sometime. Like people say, oh, I see that you're ready for this now. Here is your certificate to be able to move forward. No, it doesn't happen like that. It happens one step at a time as you take those intentionally forwards. So I would love to see you there. If you go, there's a link in the show notes and under this video, or if you go to christinerosephotography.com/P2P bootcamp. So passion to the number 2 profit bootcamp. So P, the number 2, P bootcamp. You can, if that's too convoluted, you can just click on the link in the show notes. So without further ado, shall we get into what we can photograph this month, this March? We are starting out real strong. If you have noticed in the night sky, if you have taken a look to the west in the evening, just after it gets dark, you notice 2 very bright stars. They are not stars, they are planets. As a matter of fact, I sent a TikTok video to my brothers. This is really great video about a guy, an engineer, I believe, in Australia, who built this like condo for a frog that was living in his fence. Anyways, fantastic, lovely whole saga. And I forward that to him, and he replies back with a picture of Venus and Jupiter. And he says, what are these planets? I like that he knows that they're planets. He's like, what are these planets? So we are heading in to having a conjunction. So actually March 1st and 2nd is when Venus and Jupiter is going to be as close as they get to each other. So you can see them here. Basically, we're looking in the night sky after sunset. So sun has gone down. I mean, you're going to be able to see Venus and Jupiter when there's still light in the sky as well. So just get out there, and even if you're not able to photograph them, get out there and look. It's just always so magical to see when these planets are coming so close together. So that's our first thing that is coming up. Now, the next thing that I have on my list is zodiacal light. I don't have photos to show you of this because I personally haven't captured it, but this happens around the equinoxes. So around our equinoxes, our spring and fall equinox. So we can get this zodiacal light at this time of year. You want to look to the west to shoot with your camera to see it like shortly after sunset when it's full dark. And it's a pretty cool thing to see. So, you know, if you are out and it's a beautiful, clear night, highly, highly recommend. All right, the next thing we have is a conjunction, and this is Antares and the moon. You'll see if you look at my Planet Pro screenshot, you will see like all of the beauty of Rho Ophiuchi. You won't be getting this level of detail in the nebula inside of Rho Ophiuchi, which Antares is a part of, because you've got a moon that's pretty darn bright up in the sky. But you still can get this conjunction between the two of them. And after the moon sets, if you want to get some slightly darker frames for the sky for Antares and Rho, you can do that. There'll still be a fair amount of light bouncing around in the sky, but be able to take a few more shots. I have this one set at a focal length of 200 millimeters. You know, when we're photographing the moon, longer focal lengths are better because they make the moon look bigger. They magnify it. They have it look larger in the sky, which can just be a really nice overall effect. You could do it more of a wide angle as well and get reflections and all of that fun kind of stuff. But I have this one as 200 millimeters in the sky. So then next, after that, we're coming into the equinox. That's not necessarily that there's anything special to photograph on the equinox, but the equinox is really, it's one of those signposts, you know, as we go through the year, we have just little signposts that say like, hey, you're doing okay. Look, you're here. You're at this point now. You maybe in the winter, you didn't think you were get to this point with this particular frame of mind or whatever it is that we have going on. But I really enjoy the equinox, not because it means spring's coming. So it's kind of like catch up here, at least for where I live in the Northern Hemisphere. When the equinox rolls around, it's kind of like, okay, we've had that point, right? So the sun crosses that celestial equator and it goes from south to north, and it's like, okay, it's coming back to us. It's going to be spring at some point, but then weather has to catch up with it. And in Nova Scotia, that can take a while, which is all right. We've had a actually pretty good winter. It's just now that we are starting to get actually cold weather, so I shouldn't complain. We've got lots of nice nights out on the rink, though, our very frozen and lovely backyard rink. But the equinox is very much like, okay, we're a little bit of a shifting of gears here. We are going from this winter mentality of hibernation, rest, restore, whatever it is that winter means to you. And we're starting to shift, and we're starting to be like, okay, it's just a little bit of this rebirth. It's a little bit of things starting to be like, oh, maybe the crocuses will start to come up. You know, what are the maybe the bulbs that I planted last year, maybe the groundhogs didn't eat all of them. I don't know. They probably did. Let's be real. But maybe not. They actually last year ate my hostas from underneath. And I was like, what in the dickens happened to all of my hostas? Anyways, not deer here. The deer are too scared of jazz. But the groundhogs, they do not care. So the equinox, the 20th to 21st, and it's going to be just, that little, okay, we're there, we're in this new place. It can be a chance for anyone who likes to have symbolic things as a refresh and a renew. It definitely, for me, symbolizes that. So that is happening. And then the next thing that I have to photograph is a conjunction between Venus and the moon. Now this I particularly love when Venus and the moon come together. So Venus, the evening star, it's not a star, of course. It's always just really lovely to see Venus and the moon together as they're setting. Whenever they're Venus is setting, I can see it out my front. So I look out the front door. I can see it setting over the garden, actually. So the memorial garden that I've planted for my mom. And it's even more special because I see Venus all the time, right out over top of the garden. But my one of my aunts actually said when their father, my grandfather, who I was named after, Christian, when he died, they would look together. My mom and one of her older sisters would always look together at Venus, and think of their dad. And so for me, I always get a little bit like, even if I'm not out and shooting it, I make a point to get out there and just see it. And even just Venus on its own, but then when you have Venus and you have this slim crescent moon beside it, it just gives us feeling of scale, a feeling of perspective. So if you can get out with your camera, I highly recommend it. March 24th is when we're going to see them the closest together. And that's going to be in the evening. So after sunset, and once we get into full dark, you will see them up in the sky together, and then they will be coming down and setting. Here I've got about 10:30 p.m. when Venus is down near the horizon, and then you have the moon as well. About a 200 millimeter is the longest you would go to get the two of these together. You could, of course, do more of a wide angle thing, or you could do a vertical panoramic. I mean, there's so many options. That's the cool thing about this, is we're all photographing the same thing, but it's all different. And so that gets me excited. Then the next night into the morning, so March 25th, but going into the morning of the 26th, this might be the thing I'm most excited about for March. The thing that I'm like, okay, dear March 25th overnight into the 26th, could you please be clear? Because we have the moon and the Pleiades coming together. The Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, Subaru. I love this Messier object. Love photographing it. You will not get all of the beautiful blue and the dust and whatnot that you see even in the screenshot here from Planet Pro, because there's a moon up in the sky, but you will be able to get the cluster of the stars. So it's one of the things where, with the Pleiades, where they have this beautiful, very distinct cluster of stars. So even if you're not getting all of the gases around it, you're able to still get something that's really lovely in the star and in the sky. Now I say gases, and now I'm trying to, is it a reflection or an emission nebula? I don't remember. So you can go look that up. I just like looking at the beautiful things in the skies, but I am not by any means an astronomer. So if I say the slightly wrong thing, or if you don't know, don't take my word for gospel, go look it up. It's really cool object in the night sky. Also was my mom's favorite, so has a little bit of additional meaning for me. I would like to go out and photograph this if it will be at all possible. the moon and the Pleiades will be up in the sky at full dark, and then they will be setting. For me here, it's just after midnight. So that's why I say the 25th going into the 26th. I wouldn't think of this like Sunday. I would think of this like Saturday night. And a longer focal length will look really lovely here. So a 300 millimeter would get you the moon and the Pleiades, and then you would also have some foreground in the shot. 200 would work as well if that's what you have and what you're working with. You would want to be shooting on a tracker at those focal lengths, because to get to not get movement and to be able to get a slightly longer exposure, a tracker is going to be very, very useful for that. You can do it without one, but you're just going to find that you're not getting a ton of stars. But yeah, so that's going to be on the 25th, the Saturday night, going into the 26th, the Sunday. And then what else do we have? We have on March 28th, Mars and the moon. So the red planet and the moon coming together. So this is on the 28th. That's a Tuesday, but it's like the morning of the 28th. So early morning. I have Mars and the moon setting at about 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. You could see them up in the sky together much earlier in the night on the 27th, if you want to. If you didn't want to get them setting over a landscape, you just want to see them together. I also have this at about 250 millimeters. That's going to be about the focal length on full frame. You could go a little bit longer and crop in, or you could go a little bit wider. So you could do this at 200, get a little bit more area around, or you could also do it at 300 and get a little bit less area around altogether. So then the next thing that we have, and the last kind of specific thing that I have on the docket for March, is a conjunction between two planets, so between Venus and Uranus. And this can happen, this is March 30th, when they're together the closest. March 31st, they are still together, just not quite as close, so you can't use quite as long of a focal length. In the Planet Pro screenshot that you will see, it is, Venus is like the planet that you see kind of in the middle. I don't have the label on Venus. You choose like one or the other. You choose the planet to look at and look for. I have it for Uranus because it's so small that if I didn't have it there, you'd be like, what's the conjunction? What's going on, Christine? You just want me to take pictures of Venus? Okay, fine. That's what I'll do. So Uranus is pretty faint and Venus will be very bright. So I do recommend a much longer focal length for this, 300 millimeters or longer. Like if you have a 500 millimeter, that's going to be like lovely. Of course, 500 millimeters, you need a tracker. If you're just shooting it without a tracker, it's like maybe a 1 second exposure and you're not going to get a ton of light in that amount of time. So having a much longer exposure is a big deal. It gets you a lot more light, gets you a lot more signal, which is nice. So photographing the two of those together, I have them here coming close down to the horizon about 10:30 at night, so not a crazy late night out to see that. So you can photograph those together. The moon will be up in the sky, but that's all right. Where it just gives us a nice little bit of blue overall to the sky. So that's what we've got for the month. Now, of course, the Milky Way is back. She's back, baby. And the Milky Way core is back up in the sky in the morning. Before the sun rises up in the morning, you have access to the Milky Way. Pretty much here where I'm at, so about 44.5 degrees north latitude. We're looking at about March 16th to the 27th to be like nice and solid. Now, when I say nice and solid, it's about max like 2.5 hours. So I think it's about 3 a.m. to like 5:30 a.m. in the maximum time. That's maybe the 23rd, I think, is when we've got that amount. So it's like 2.5 hours of time with the Milky Way. It's more than February. It's still going to be cold. Definitely is still going to be chilly here. So bundle up if you are in somewhere that is not Florida or Texas. I rag on them, but for good reason, because I looked at Planet Pro and I checked for there, and it's like 4 hours with the Milky Way. So I think on the 25th, it's like, I just randomly, like, I looked at like, okay, what of the dates between the 16th and the 27th, like 24th, 25th, has 3 dots in Planet Pro as opposed to 2. And it's like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Like, are you kidding me? 4 hours in March? And it's not freezing, though. You know, I like to rag on Florida in particular, just because I have students who I love dearly who live there, and it's so warm there. So, you know, that's why I like to give them a hard time. But they get a hard time enough from all of the clouds, which I know well, being a coastal province and Florida being a coastal state. You know, their hurricanes are a heck of a lot worse than the ones we get here, but we get similar weather in terms of how much cloud and then fog and all of the things that come with living and being coastal. But if you do live more southerly than I do, you're going to get more time with the Milky Way. So I am just a tiny bit jealous, but that's okay. I will let that pass. We all have our unique benefits to where it is that we live. So definitely, if you haven't yet, get out and see if you can just say hi to the Milky Way core again. Now, I am going to give a little bit here because, you know, I've been seeing, so inside our groups, the private groups for my Milky Way masterclass and for my Photoshop class, I've been seeing students who are going out and they are shooting, and I love it. And it's also a little bit like, oh yeah, I know how to ride a bike, but it's been a little while and, you know, the chains are a bit rusty. I might need to fill up the tires again that got a little flat over the winter. Maybe, you know, I have every plan to go out and photograph Orion a whole bunch of times. And then I just stayed in, I don't know, by the fire with Pi, like a dog or a cat or something. That to me, that sounds lovely, by the way. I have a dog and I can make pie. I don't have a fireplace though. But that sounds like that would be perfect. That's all I want. Well, I mean, I guess my family could be there too. But they might try and eat my pie. Anyways, if that's you and you're coming to this and you're like, I haven't really been out, but I've just been doing other stuff. That includes snuggling my pets by a cozy fire with pie. That's okay. That's all right. You know, I talked about this earlier with the shift of the season and, you know, the equinox coming, and it's kind of like the herald being like, spring is coming. It's not actually here yet, but it's coming. Winter can be a time when we maybe don't do as much. There's other stuff going on in the holiday seasons, all of the things. And then, you know, it's a new year and everything that comes with that. At this point, a lot of people are like, okay, I'm doing it again. I'm going back out again. I'm going to try and remember what I learned last season. And I would like to remind you to be gentle on yourself, because it can be a process of remembering, a process of like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing again, especially if we've had a few months off. There will be all of these little things that happen. Maybe we've got some new gear over the winter, some Christmas presents. Did I enable you to get anything? And then we get out there and we're just like, what do I do? And we don't know. And then, you know, we kind of come back and we're like, what even happened while I was out there? So now it's not everyone. Some people are going to get out and create amazing photos that they're super happy with and they're super excited about the first time. But I want to talk to the other subset of us who might get out there and just forget a whole bunch of things, and that's okay. The first step, and this is legit the first step in anything, like if you want to get better at things, like you want to start a business, and this is where my brain is at right now because I'm in full content creation mode here, for my Shoot to Sell Society and also for the private podcast that's happening. Anything that you want to get started on and you're like, this is a thing that I want to do, this is an outcome that I want to have, the literal first thing you need to do is just actually take that first step. And that step doesn't have to be perfect. It can be like a millimeter forward, metaphorically, but it will start to get you there. And so taking that action is the thing that will get you whatever the goal is. Our problem sometimes, and I speak from experience, is that we take that step and we do not get to that goal immediately, and it can be a frustrating process because it feels like other people got to it so much more quickly, and why can't I? So trust the process, trust yourself, and just get out there and start doing it. So, for your first Milky Way shoot, maybe instead of having a big grandiose plan, maybe it's somewhere nearby-ish. Put that in like air quotes, because for some of us, nearby is like a 3-hour drive to get to a Bortle 4. It all depends on where we're living and what our circumstances are. But somewhere that's familiar, somewhere you've been before, so that it can be a little bit of an easier introduction back in. Don't try and make these big grandiose plans as your first thing. Like, at least give yourself like a little bit of okay, this is what we're doing again. This is where we are. And then get into it and keep doing it, and find the things in it that are the reason you do it anyways. So when we're looking at our night photography, sometimes, some nights I don't get the photos that I want, but I still have the experience that I needed. And we're a very goal outcome society, goal-oriented society. And it can sometimes be like, oh, well, you didn't hit that goal, you didn't do that thing. And it's like, well, no, you know what? But I got out there and I had all of these other positive things instead. So I like to keep my head on that and think about the possibilities. And this is just our first step in getting back out. So I do hope that you get back out, that you get some clear skies that line up with the new moon and line up with your ability to get out and be in nature. I know I have partially hibernated, not all the way. My kids still need sunlight, and so does my dog. And so I have to do it for them. I might not always take the best care of myself, but I kind of, like, I eat fruit because I make sure my kids eat fruit. I get sunlight and exercise because I make sure my dog gets it. So, that's good that I've built in these fail safes into my life. So I hope that you are able to get a little bit for yourself this month, some clear skies, even just to look up. Sometimes we do give ourselves a hard time because we think we should be productive, because we live in a capitalistic society where production is the be all, the end all. But it's even just, I was talking about earlier with Venus and the moon, we might just be sick again, like we have been forever, but I will still go out and look out my front door and take that time to stop and see and be in that. If I can create a really beautiful image, that's the icing on the cake, because then I get to share it with people and I get to transfer that experience that I'm having to others, which is really meaningful for me. But even if I don't, it's not the be all end all. It's all right. So I think that's where I want to leave you with. Just, we get out there and we get started and we get that momentum. We get the ball rolling, get the snowball rolling. Like when you start, this is a good one, when you start building a snowman, for instance. When was the last time you did that? And you've got this teensy tiny ball. Of course, you have to have the right snow. It can't be dry, fluffy snow like we have right now. You need to have that wet snow. Generally what we get here, being so close to the ocean. You get that started and you're like trying to roll it, and it's like all weird and it's not round, but then you get going, and then it's like at some point it's like it's me and both my kids, and we're all throwing our shoulders into it and just trying to get it to roll more because it's huge, and we're like, oh my gosh, how did we get here? We'll start with this teensy tiny snowball, this teensy tiny little thing. Now, of course, at that point, Jazz comes out of the house and is like, oh my gosh, you built me a snowman to tear down. And then she tears it down, and then the kids cry, and then it's a whole thing. And I have to say, Jazz, you need to go inside, and then we rebuild it again. And, but you won't have Jazz tearing down your momentum. She only does that to snowballs. She's actually quite nice to go out with at night. She comes and sits on you when she's wet and makes sure that you get to be wet as well, because she knows how much she enjoys that and assumes that I do too. But Jazz only ruins snowmen and balloons. She's destroyer of those things. Everything else, though, she's quite lovely too. So get some momentum going. Build a metaphorical snowman. Get the ball rolling. Get out there. get shooting, and please share. So if you're in one of my full-time classes, you already are sharing and you see the people sharing, and I love it. And you already know I want to see all of it. But if you're not, please come in to my podcast Facebook group. So we have an After Dark Photography podcast Facebook group. You can get that link. It's in the show notes. It's linked up. You can come in there and share images and chat about everything that's going on. These communities are incredibly supportive and excited to see images. And I get really, really psyched just to see what everyone is up to. Like one of our members in our group posted the Northern Lights over the Stonehenge. Are you kidding me? Darren, it was so good. So I get super excited to see everything that you're out and doing and creating. So please come and share. And if you do feel so inclined, I'd love to have you in my From Passion to Profit bootcamp, my secret podcast experience, my hit at a secret society, as it were, is free. It is meant to give you that next step to start the ball rolling, to start the momentum on starting your photography business. And it would be an absolute pleasure to have you there with me. So that's it for this month's Cosmic Chronicle. Thank you so much for being here with me on the After Dark Photography podcast. I will see you next week. Take care.